Aggression from North Vietnam, U.S. State Department, February 27, 1965. South Vietnam is fighting for its life against a brutal campaign of terror and armed attacks inspired, directed, supplied, and controlled by the communist regime in Hanoi. This flagrant aggression has been going on for years, but recently the pace has quickened and the threat has now become acute. The war in Vietnam is a new kind of war, a fact as yet poorly understood in most parts of the world. Much of the confusion that prevails in the thinking of many people and even governments stems from the basic misunderstanding. For in Vietnam, a totally new brand of aggression has been loosed against an independent people who want to make their way in peace and freedom. There are elements in the communist program of conquest directed against South Vietnam common to each of the previous areas of aggression and subversion. But there is one fundamental difference. In Vietnam, a communist government has set out deliberately to conquer a sovereign people in a neighboring state. And to achieve its end, it has used every resource of its own government to carry its carefully planned program of concealed aggression. North Vietnam's commitment to seize control of the South is no less total than was the commitment of the regime in North Korea in 1950. But knowing the consequences of the latter's undisguised attack, the planners in Hanoi have tried desperately to conceal their hand. They have failed, and their aggression is as real as that of an invading army. The evidence shows that the hardcore of the communist forces attacking South Vietnam were trained in the north and ordered into the south by Hanoi. It shows that the key leadership of the Viet Cong, North Vietnam, the officers and much of the cadre, many of the technicians, political organizers, and propagandists have come from the north and operate under Hanoi's direction. It shows that the training of essential military personnel and their infiltration into the South is directed by the military high command in Hanoi. In recent months, new types of weapons have been introduced to the Viet Cong army, for which all ammunition must come from the outside sources. Communist China and other communist states have been the prime suppliers of these weapons and ammunition, and they have been channeled primarily through North Vietnam. Through the Lao Dong Workers' Party Central Committee, which controls the government of the North, the Lao Dong Party directs the total political and military effort of the Viet Cong. The military high command in the North trains the military men and sends them into South Vietnam. The Central Research Agency, North Vietnam Central Intelligence Organization, directs the elaborate espionage and subversion effort. In 1961, the Department of State issued a report called A Threat to the Peace. It described North Vietnam's program to seize South Vietnam. The evidence in that report has been presented by the government of the Republic of Vietnam to the International Control Commission. A special report by the ICC in June of 1962 upheld the validity of the evidence. The commission held that there was sufficient evidence to show beyond reasonable doubt that North Vietnam had sent arms and men into South Vietnam to carry out subversion with the aim of overthrowing the legal government there. The ICC found the authorities in Hanoi in specific violation of 4 provisions of the Geneva Accords of 1954. The people of South Vietnam have chosen to resist this threat. At their request, the United States has taken its place beside them in their defensive struggle. The United States seeks no territory, no military bases, no favored position. But we have learned the meaning of aggression elsewhere in the post-war world, and we have met it. If peace can be restored in South Vietnam, the United States will be ready at once to reduce its military involvement. But it will not abandon friends who want to remain free. It will do what must be done to help them. The choice now between peace and continued and increasingly destructive conflict is one for the authorities in Hanoi to make.